Good morning, I'm Suzanne from Rogers Gardens, and today we're going to be discussing how to plant your garden. So I'm hoping that you've watched Sarah's video on how to design your garden. That's going to give you a good idea how to get started, what you need to focus on, and how to kind of like rein in all of your desires for the perfect garden. And today we're going to talk about just the steps that you need to take to get your plants into the ground. And the first one is location, location, location. Get your cup of coffee in the morning and go take a walk around the area that you're going to be planting and check, does this area have sun in the morning or is it more of a sun in the afternoon location? This is really important when you're choosing plants so that you can put your like plants with other like plants. Some plants really love just a little morning sun and can't handle that afternoon sun, and some are the opposite, of course. So you're going to group your plants together and then decide, morning sun, afternoon sun. You also want to make sure, sometimes you're going to have an area maybe in between your house and your neighbor's house where it gets just a midday sun. And that's going to be kind of up to you in checking, is it the midday sun where it goes across the area, or is it the midday sun where it goes straight down that side area almost the whole day? That makes a lot of difference in plants, but again, at Rogers Gardens we can help you with all of that. So one of the things that people can get a little bit hung up on is this side area or even parts of your garden. It's better to think of the compass directions as opposed to the time of the year. So if you think the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, that's going to be a good guide to what kind of sun you have. Usually northeast locations in your house are going to be the more shadier areas, and southwest will be a little bit sunnier. So the next point is to, before you even plant, and it's a little bit like redoing a house, you've got to kind of do the boring stuff. You want to check your irrigation. If you need to, have someone come by, give it a little tune-up, make sure that everything's running right, because when you invest in your plants, if your irrigation is off or not working right or flooding, it's really going to impact your investment there. So take a moment, really look into your irrigation, turn it on if you if you know how to do all that, because sometimes it's a little computerized now, but turn it on, look at it. Is every area getting soaked? And if you have different stations, make sure that your more water-wise plants are on one station and your more water-needy plants are on another station, and make sure that when your irrigation is on, that it really soaks down, not just that kind of light sprinkler type watering on the surface of the thing, surface of the soil. You want to make sure that it goes down. So water deeply, less often. You're going to hear me say that probably in every single video I do. Water deeply, less often. And then after you've got your irrigation in order, you're going to want to amend your soil. Some people have really good soil already, but most people need to amend it a little bit. Soil is actually more important than fertilizer for your garden, so just make sure that it's really healthy, again, for your investment of plants to go into. And what I like to do, this is one of my absolute favorite products. It's called John Bob Soil Optimizer. This tiny bag is good for 1,000 square feet, so you can tell it is super concentrated, and you just sprinkle it around and it really helps build up your soil. The reason that you want to have good soil is so that the roots of your plants will open up and take in more nutrients and then of course grow better. So having a simple soil amendment like this is so good. It really refreshes all soil, not just in your garden beds, but also you can put it in pots and things like that. So if you have some soil in there and you don't really want to take it all out and dump it, you can put some of this in there and help refresh it. There is also the Malibu Compost. At Rogers, we love this stuff. This is super concentrated. This is a smaller bag of it, but you can just spread this on top of your soil if you want. You can dig it in a little bit, but you can use this as a mulch. You can use it as an amendment. It pretty much like a 1 part this to 5 parts native soil. or planting mix if you want. It is so good. It has cow manure, it has worm castings, it has all sorts of natural things that again are going to help your plants with the roots and just taking up all the really needed micronutrients and things like that. So these two together would be an amazing thing, but you know, one or the other is also great. So some plants like camellias or azaleas, hydrangeas, gardenias, they like a little bit more acidic soil. So feel free when you're planting or when you're amending, if you're going to have a whole bed of more shade-loving, kind of acid-loving plants, use the acid-loving planting mix. And if you already have established plants there, feel free to use this as a mulch as well. You want to keep that soil super acidic so the plants are a little bit happier. There's also, if you're planting a lot of succulents, there is Cactus mix. This stuff is great to help with the drainage. Succulents really can't sit in water, and so sometimes if you have succulents with other plants that might need a little bit more water, having Cactus mix around them is going to help them really drain that water away, and they'll be super healthy. And you can add them with plants that are a little bit more water thirsty. So worm castings. If you have watched me or Sarah talk about anything recently, we are in love with worm castings. It is a great soil additive, and it is so good for so many reasons. It's a natural ingredient to add into soil. It helps soil retain a little bit more water, especially if you put it in pots. It's really good. The reason that I love it so much is that it also helps fight pests in your garden. So you put it in the soil, or you can put a nice little layer on top and kind of scratch it in a little bit. And what it does is it works its way through the soil to the plant roots, and the plants take it up. It has this enzyme in it that makes aphids and whiteflies and things like that not like the plant. They don't like the taste of it. So it is such a double bonus to have a great soil additive that is just so good for the plants, the soil, and then it also keeps pests away. So it is a great investment. Put it in your soil like twice a year and you will be rewarded with far less pests in your garden. And of course, once you get your soil started, you want to use fertilizer. So this is kind of after you've planted your garden, or while you're planting your garden, you can throw some of the organic fertilizers that we sell here in with your plant. Organic fertilizers are great because they don't burn your plants. They are very slow release. So we recommend doing this once a month. And a lot of times people will look at the numbers here and they'll say, oh, they're so low compared to another, kind of mass-produced product that you might buy at some of the big box stores. But the reason is this: you only have to use it once a month. It releases slowly. You're never going to burn it. It's going to be healthier for your plants and the soil, and it's just a natural product that won't push your plant beyond what it really wants to do naturally. So I'm showing you right now the all-purpose fertilizer because it really is all-purpose. You don't have to worry too much about getting specific fertilizers if you have a lot of different kinds of plants. So feel free to use all-purpose, but if you do want to go more specific, we have fruit tree fertilizer, we have citrus fertilizer, we have acid-loving plant fertilizer, we have starter fertilizers. We just have everything, and we have a lot of very specific amendments for people who, for example, if they have roses, they like alfalfa meal, we have that as well. We have a rose and flower fertilizer, so you can get very specific, but if when all else fails, just use all-purpose, and again, it's going to reward you with great, healthy, happy plants. So you've chosen your location, you've checked your irrigation, and you have amended your soil. Now it's time to plant, and if you've done your design, and whether you're working with the entire plant or just section by section, you're going to have your plants and you're going to set them out. When you buy a plant like this, it's so cute and nice, but this one will grow to be 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, so you need to allow for that and not plant it right next to another plant like this. Or if you have a bunch of gaura, give them that space. You won't have that instant gratification look, but once they all grow in, it's going to look a lot better, and you won't lose any plants to overcrowding and maybe them defoliating down at the bottom. It just doesn't look as nice. A lot of times people do want that instant gratification look, and in which case buy bigger plants and you know, you can do that, but it's much more economical to start smaller. It's also better for the plants and their roots to get established, to start them a little bit smaller. So have some patience, space your plants out, and then they're all going to grow in super well. So when you plant your plants, it's I brought this one specifically because it's really easy to see here. You're going to dig a hole twice as wide as this container is. So, you know, about this wide, and maybe just a little bit deeper than this, because you want the soil line that's sitting right here to be even with the soil in your garden. It's okay if this shows right here. If you have a plant that has a little root showing, you might want to just put a thin layer of soil there, and then as you're watering deeply and less often, those roots are going to grow down better for the plant. But just do not plant anything deeper than what it is right here, because it's kind of like putting a turtleneck on your plant and it's just going to suffocate it. It's not going to do well. And when you're finishing up your planting, what you want to do is have some mulch around it to conserve water, to have it look finished, to help the soil and just keep everything neat and tidy. But you don't want that mulch to be touching the stem of this plant. Or if you have a plant like this, you want to keep it a couple inches away from the crown of the plant right here, so that the plant will grow really, really well and healthy. So take some time, make sure that you move your plants around to see what you like and how it goes. You know, maybe you've designed something and then you recognize that maybe it needs to be switched up a little bit. That's not a problem. Just go ahead and do that with the plants in the containers, set everything up, kind of imagine it being a little bit bigger, and then move forward. Once your plants are in the ground though, that's when you start thinking and considering about pests and maintenance. Pests are something that you really think of it like a calendar. There are rarely any pests that are around year-round. Aphids are almost always like a spring new growth kind of pest. You can have aphids a lot of the year, but they really come out in force in the spring when all the plants are sending out new, tender, delicious growth. So think about that. And if you have, for example, roses, you might have the aphids in the spring. You're going to have maybe a little rust a little later in the season, and then probably around July, August, you're going to maybe get some rose slugs or something. It's just a very seasonal thing. If you remember it when they're going to come, you can be a little bit proactive about it. Again, use those worm castings, get them in the soil. It's going to help battle before the pests come. But then when you're using pesticides and things like that, use an organic pesticide. Consider what you're spraying and do it thoughtfully. If a plant like this is blooming, you don't want to spray anything on a plant like this that might be harmful to bees or pollinators. It's really, there are organic products that may not be great for pollinators, so just keep that in mind and try and work with something else. You can always talk to the people here at Rogers and we'll guide you in the right direction. As the season goes on, you're going to maintain it. Plants like this, you're going to probably cut back maybe once a year. Otherwise, you can prune it back after it's flowered. Just kind of give it a good haircut right about here. A vine is obviously going to be a training process over a few years. I liken it always to raising children. You just kind of give them really good boundaries when they're young, and they become very responsible vines when they're mature. Trees and shrubs, you want to prune those usually November as they're either going dormant or a little bit quieter. Fruit trees and things like that, prune them after the fruit is done. And anything else, just kind of, maybe you can Google it, you can come into Rogers, you can talk to all of us, but maintenance is really important, and probably the number one thing that people don't like to do, but it really is the best for your garden, is weeding. The reason that you should go out and weed, obviously, for, the obvious reason is aesthetics, but you also get a real good look at your garden while you're out there. So if I'm weeding around Rogers Red here and pulling off the dead leaves and things like that, I'm looking and seeing, are there pests here? Is this plant healthy? Does it need maybe a little bump of fertilizer? Does it need some Epsom salts or something like that? So being out there, weeding your garden, putting your hands on it, putting your eyes on it is the best thing for maintaining a really, really healthy garden. So So that's about it, getting ready to plant your garden. It can seem overwhelming, but it's actually quite simple. These steps of just, going through the motions, and it becomes a rhythm to you once you get, even if it's just one plant or an entire garden, just make sure that you check the soil, check the irrigation, space your plants apart, and get going. And don't forget, a really, really important thing, we probably say it once a day here at Rogers, is you can't be a good gardener unless you kill a few plants. It is true. Sometimes the best gardeners will kill plants for whatever reason. Who knows? Plants are like people. Some last a super long time, some don't. But don't feel bad if a plant doesn't work. It just gives you an opportunity to come back to Rogers and get another plant. Whether it's the same one or maybe something different. Maybe you didn't even like that plant in the first place. But just keep in mind that not every gardener, there is no gardener that is 100% successful. I guarantee you that. So enjoy your garden, and we will see you again next time. So thank you for joining me. This was really great, learning how to plant your garden. I'd like to welcome you to come to rogersgardens.com for all your shopping and looking needs. We have our Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Pinterest, and don't forget our YouTube channel here where you can subscribe and learn all about how to take care of your garden.